So without further ado, Nicole, thank you again for coming on tonight. I appreciate your time. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. And thank you so much for joining tonight. I'm going to share my screen and then we're going to take it away. A second. Let me know what you're seeing.
See it.
Okay, great. So good evening, everyone. I want to introduce myself. Thanks, Lawrence, for you inviting me to speak tonight. I'm really excited. And so I'm going to do a brief introduction and then we're going to go into our presentation. Really great to meet you all. So varied investment theses, folks from all over the country. I'm really excited about that. So I'm Nicole Earle. I am in Baltimore, Maryland. I'm the CEO of Dominion Real Estate, and I'm also a mortgage loan officer with Paramount Residential Mortgage. You can see that behind me. So I want to just tell you a little bit about myself. So I am an immigrant. I migrated to this country back in the 80s from a little island called Jamaica. So I have my New York connection because I lived in New York prior to moving to Maryland in '94, went to undergrad at SUNY Albany, yay, SUNY. And I received my master's degree from Carnegie Mellon and then moved to Maryland in '94, and that's where I've been ever since. So started out my career in real estate. So my first 3 years, I was a fiscal analyst for the state. But after that, I got into banking. Let me see, do I have any of these pointers on here? Okay, yeah, got into banking at Nations Bank. My first 3 years, I was a lender to home builders in the Mid-Atlantic. And then I learned about this group in the bank called the Community Development Corporation. Now, my master's was in management and public policy with a concentration in finance and economic development. So this was right up my alley because I wanted an opportunity to change neighborhoods, change communities, and that's what the Community Development Corporation was doing. We deployed equity. So that was back in the day when the bank at the time seemed like we were merging every 2 weeks. I joined that group and worked in Baltimore for a couple of years doing development, and then moved over to DC to do development. And then, so then after a couple of years in that division, about 5 years in that division, I decided, I think I got the hang of this. I decided to leave the bank and start my own company. So I came to Baltimore, which was a place that had better price points than Washington, D.C., and started doing some renovations. So these are some of the projects that I did after I left the bank. I was renovating and flipping homes in what's called Federal Hill. It's down around the water. It basically had like a whole block. And then also an 8-unit multifamily, which I bought at auction and renovated, occupied it. And then just before the market crashed, I was able to dispose of it. So that worked out really well. Market timing is everything. So kind of got spooked. I was really young at the time, and then went to work for the Housing Authority of Baltimore City and the City of Baltimore. And I think I heard somebody on here saying that they were a project manager. So I became a development manager, project manager, as you could call it, for the city and the Housing Authority. And these are some of the projects that I worked on. The Upluz redevelopment was a large 60-acre parcel. This is just part of the pictures. There are 5 phases, and there's some offsite parcels too that aren't shown on this map. But this is, we did about 150 rental units, 303 total homeownership, 308 total homeownership units. So I managed that entire process from, acquisition to environmental remediation, demolition, entitlements, getting, plans, permits, working with a master developer and managing that entire process through lease up and sales. And so that was pretty exciting. Didn't know at the time when they hired me that they were kind of throwing me into a hornet's nest, because there was actually a lawsuit that the residents had filed against the city, and the project was stalled between, you know, the conflicts between the community, the city, the housing authority, the residents. I think, like, at that time I said, what is going on? Because at my last job at Bank of America, I managed a project that also I had to settle a lawsuit. So I don't know if that was a part of them hiring me, but they didn't tell me at the time. So when you're in development, all these things happen. So actually, let me take a step back and kind of describe what is development. And I took this definition straight from Google. So I'm a real estate developer. What does that mean? Because I know there are a lot of people who are doing fix and flips. They're investing in small multifamilies, or so the fix and flips are typically like single families, and you have small multifamilies, you have large multifamilies, you have commercial and mixed use. So it varies, right? So what's real estate development or property development? It's business process of activities that range from renovation and release to of buildings, to purchase of raw land and the sale of developed land. You could do it as a company or a person, but real estate is different than construction or home building. Although many developers kind of manage the construction process or engage in building as well. Developers, we buy land, we finance the real estate deals, we put together the concepts, put together the team, you know, we manage the construction project, you know, you oversee the entire process, but it's typically like larger. Of course, you could call a development a smaller project, but typically development is larger deals, whether it's mixed use, just commercial, or multifamily projects. And you orchestrate the entire process from beginning to end. So sometimes, you know, developers may handle the first part, which is just the land development, and they sell it to a builder, or we could do the whole thing. So it all depends. There are different facets of development. So I know most people are doing like the fixer flips or multifamily investments, whether it's through a syndication or passively or as an LP or GP. But this is another aspect. So before you get to the point where you could buy these properties, or you could drive for dollars and find these houses, there's a developer that has to create this product out of nothing. And that's kind of why I love development. I love the creativity of it. I love placemaking. And in particular, my focus is community development. So I love revitalizing neighborhoods. Like, I can literally drive around Baltimore and see neighborhoods that I've worked on. So like I said, the Uplands was, at the time when I was hired in 2008, was one of the largest redevelopment projects on the East Coast. Over 1,100 units total when it's all done, all 5 phases. Other developments included the Barclay redevelopments and multi-phase, multi-yeared, multifaceted kind of redevelopment. And these are some of the product types that I developed and managed. This is actually my first project, a senior building, 94 units and a cafe at the bottom. That was my first project. This one was my second. The towns at Hillsdale and Anacostia, Washington, D.C. These are some other projects that I managed for the housing authority in the city at the bottom here. This is a family building, William Jones, and another phase of the Barclay project. This was one of the townhouse product at the Uplands. And so redevelopment includes just all, you know, everything. So like I said, from concept, entitlements, land development, remediation. If there's brownfields, I remember having at Uplands, we had USTs, which is underground storage tanks that we had to excavate, and buildings had to be remediated before they were demolished. So many facets, but it's so interesting, and that's why I love development, right? So my last 3 years I spent at as a bank. I went back into banking after leaving development. With Fulton Bank, which is a regional bank based out of Lancaster. And I was really fortunate to be a part of some pretty impactful real estate development projects. This is one of them. It's called the Towns at the Stadium Place. If For those of you who are in Baltimore, familiar with Baltimore, if you follow football, there was the old stadium was called Memorial Stadium. That's where the both Browns or the Colts used to play before we have the Ravens Stadium. And so this redevelopment is a mixed use, well, it's a senior building, but mixed use. So on top is senior housing, 70 units, and the bottom part is commercial, geared specifically to the senior housing. So this was our groundbreaking, and the property is fully built. I should have put in some recent pictures, and mostly occupied. Another project that I was able to be a part of and finance was Northwoods Shopping Center. For those of you familiar with Morgan State, this is the shopping center right across from the university. This was an old shopping center that was pretty historical because it was the site of the first civil rights sit-in by Morgan students. So pretty historical, but it had been sitting there for decades in really deplorable condition and mostly vacant. So this developer came in and he had a plan to revitalize it. So now you have a full redevelopment project that has a new Lidl. For those of you familiar with that brand, it's a new brand that came into the supermarket that came into the United States a couple years ago. Barnes and Nobles, Chipotle, just all new buildings. Really exciting. Completely revitalized that entire community that was had no supermarket or shopping amenities close by. And also, some of you, if you've driven through Baltimore, you might have heard of Lexington Market. It's one of the oldest markets in America. And so I was able to finance that project, which included tearing down part of the building and building a brand new market, which is now open. So if you come by Lexington Market, it won't be that old dingy, let's say, not nice building anymore. And you have a brand new Lexington Market with amazing vendors and a great diversity of stalls. So definitely stop by on your way through Baltimore. Don't listen to all these talks about, the wire and Baltimore is an amazing place, despite what the media perception is. So why Baltimore? That's a good segue into why Baltimore? Why invest in Baltimore? I'm gonna, of course, make a plug. As a matter of fact, yesterday we were, I was fortunate to be at an event with the mayor. Well, he sent a message, but the mayor and the governor elect Wes Moore and the head of the Baltimore Development Corporation and all the community leaders and stakeholders talking about how to make Baltimore more inclusive, more equitable, and just looking at why Baltimore, why it's such a great place. So Baltimore is home to over 500,000. So we were a city of about 1 million, but now we're at about 500,000. But it's still a vibrant city and one of the most important cities in Maryland. And the new governor has pledged his commitment to help the city really see its full potential. So it's one of the most populous cities in Maryland, 30th most populous city in the US. We have a population, although we declined last year in the last census, I think with the new efforts that the governor and the city is going to be working on, will be increasing that. But immigration has played a big part in terms of stemming the tide of the loss. We're just, what are the developers? A developer who did the Northwood Commons across from Morgan, he was on a panel yesterday and he said, when you're doing real estate and you're supposed to buy the worst property on the best block, right? He said, Baltimore is, I love the way he put it, Baltimore is that worst property on the best block, right? Why is that? Because of proximity. We're 40 miles from DC. We're smack dab in the very good commuter corridor between DC and New York and Philadelphia, right? We have one of the best areas in terms of meds and eds. So the world-class hospitals, Johns Hopkins being one of them, world-class universities, University of Maryland and Hopkins University, Morgan State, two of the best HBCUs in the country, right? Morgan State being one, Coppin. And so, we have like one of the largest and deepest seaports, where most of your stuff come into Baltimore Harbor to go wherever it goes on the East Coast. In terms of like the industries that are big in this area, life sciences is really huge with our proximity to NSA and with Hopkins. IT is growing, and I think there's a big focus to grow us, our IT, make us the East Coast version of California, right? To make IT like big, and logistics because of the port and our manufacturing and our proximity on we have we're on I-95 and just major corridors. The rail runs right through here. You can get to DC in an hour or less. And their plans actually right now they're working on the Amtrak. So the industries that are going to be growing even more, life science, IT, logistics, manufacturing, healthcare, agriculture, and energy. If you're familiar with Ocean City, some years ago they passed some legislation, put quite a bit of money to put wind energy in Ocean City. So and we're planning to do a lot of investments in energy here in Baltimore City as well. Baltimore City ranks 25 largest metro area for density. And so, surprisingly, one of the highest density of advanced degree holders, top 3 large US metro area for IT jobs, support specialists, computer hardware engineers, and information systems, just because of all the schools we have. I mean, we have College Park, we have University of Maryland system, we have Hopkins, Morgan, and Morgan is growing by leaps and bounds. Like I said, the connectivities, I-95, I-70, I-83, just great connectivity. And our port, we talked about that already. Sorry, let's go back. All right, so next chapter, right? So last year, November, I took the leap and jumped out on my own to restart my company, leaving the bank. To start Dominion Real Estate, second chapter. So what do I have going on right now? So you get started, easiest thing, because development is a long lead item kind of play, right? So I'm working on a redevelopment, which is 2415 College Avenue in a neighborhood close to Morgan, actually, because that is a very stable, beautiful, historic neighborhood. Pretty much, the old neighbors there, they kind of gave me a history of all the amazing people who lived in that neighborhood, judges, lawyers, all the presidents of Morgan lived in that neighborhood. And they were able to tell me the history of the neighborhood. Very, very, I mean, like literally, they're watching your every move because they're very vested in their community, but I love it. I love it. So the project is almost finished. It's a brand new rehab, 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, huge property, really great property. It's Baltimore. And I'm telling you, like so many times that I've been there, I've seen deer running by and their whole family. It's a really great project. I can't wait to be done and make this a home for somebody for Christmas. The second project and the development project is called Abedul Residences. So when I started my company, why did I do that, right? So I've been in the affordable housing space for a while, and I realized that that there was a need. There was a need to be filled by developers that looked like me, to serve the clients that lived in the communities that I lived in Baltimore City. And so this project is actually in my neighborhood. So what I'm building is an impact investment firm. So the property, I acquired it at auction last year and getting ready to settle on the property because it was a sheriff's sale. And so it took forever to get that contract ratified, but we're finally at that point. So we should be settling soon. And this, maybe another time I'll come on and talk about the different facets of affordable housing and community development. So we are financing this with low-income housing tax credits and new markets tax credits, which are two financing tools that are used for community development, commercial and for low-income housing or affordable housing development. And that's basically what my entire career has been, using those two main funding strategies to fund projects and do development. So this is about 44 units on top of 2 floors of commercial. So you might have heard some of the issues that are going on in the city, right? So in our neighborhood, there's not a whole lot of new retail or commercial. Actually, I don't think anything's been built for decades. So I'm proposing here 3 retail bays to, I say it's a selfish development, because I think every kid should have an ice cream store to go to on Sunday afternoons. I remember when I was growing up, I wasn't rich, but when my mom was able to take me to the ice cream store on the weekend, I thought I was in heaven. You can tell me. And then a pizza place is literally in my neighborhood. Domino's does not deliver, and I have to drive all the way to where the store is to pick up my pizza. So I think we should have a good pizza place. And secondly, and thirdly, a place to have a good cup of coffee. The retail in our community consists of a McDonald's, a Burger King, other stuff that I don't even want to talk about, liquor stores being one of them, and a pharmacy. So we have to add diversity of commercial in our neighborhood, because the neighborhood is seeing significant investment, but most of the projects that are on the books are low-income housing projects, and so want to add to that diversity and provide amenities and services for the community so that we don't have to have the spillage and people going outside the neighborhood to buy services. And then the second floor is really targeted to the youth, right? We've been having some issues here with young people, and so my answer to the community and to the city is to provide amenities for the young people. So we're going to have a boxing and MMA studio and a recording, multimedia, and podcasting studio on the second floor. So that is Aventura Residences. And you might be wondering why that name. So I spent a month in Africa, and I was really tied to, I'm embracing all of that in my history. And Aventura is Ghanaian for the palms, hence the palms, because I'm trying to bring that calm, tropical feel to the urban oasis of Park Heights. So that is the project here, just a schematic, rooftop deck, community space, the radio station, or recording studio, martial arts, and so apartments on top of retail and community space. So that's one project. The other project that's in development right now is a subdivision, which would be for sale, either for sale or rent to own townhouse projects. And that's also in Baltimore. So that's in the early stages of development right now. And yeah, looking forward to that one. And then the third one is a hospitality project. Oddly enough, I know you're like, why that? What? In Ohio. I know. Why Ohio? I have my partner is there, and he had the contacts and all that, but I'm doing the development piece of it. Hospitality, why hospitality? So you notice that my projects are I'm eclectic. I've always done a variety of projects, retail, commercial, residential, multifamily. And so I guess I get bored easily. So I like challenges. So my projects are eclectic. I'm building up a portfolio that, and also that diversity helps with weathering different economic storms, because you don't have all your eggs in one basket. But hospitality, you probably have heard of the Green Book, and ever since I saw that, I just fell in love with hospitality. Besides, African Americans spend a lot of money in hospitality, but our ownership rate is next to nothing. Similarly with development, interestingly enough, in the commercial real estate space, which is this area that I'm in, there are only 2% of the commercial real estate professionals are BIPOC. And so that was another reason why I wanted to use my skills, not only to help my community, but be a part of the change that I wanted to see in the industry. So I mentioned that I am a lender, right? So for those of you who are doing your fix and flips, wanted to talk about some of our mortgage products that are for investors. So if you have an investment property, you're doing the BRRRR method, right? You're buying, you're rehabbing, you're renting it out, and you're refining, and then repeat. That's BRRRR. We have products for you if you want. They're varied, right? So you can either do full doc or like no doc. So you just use your income, the rental income of the property, or debt service coverage. So we can refi with pretty much very little documentation whatsoever, as long as your rental income is covering the debt service. We could do DCR loans. We could do, low doc loans. So I'll have my information at the end. If you have something like that or know somebody who needs those services, you please feel free to give me a call. Just wanted to talk about some lessons, right? I think that's almost like the end. So we can go over later if you're interested in something like that, what we will need for that kind of mortgage refi. So I mentioned DCR, whether it's for fix to flip or Airbnb property, we have those programs as well. And cash out is allowed. That's important because you want to be able to turn the equity that you've created and then buy your next property, right? So that's pretty much it in a very brief. I'm going to give you some lessons, some tips that kind of wrap up some thoughts that came to my mind. So if you want to get into real estate development, build a team, do what you're doing right now, join a community of like-minded investors. One key thing in terms of like going the distance, register your business, which I'm sure many of you have done, and work on building your business credit so that, down the road, you don't have to rely on your personal credit. You want to be able to separate those two things. Begin building banking relationships, as a lender. And I'll tell you this, one of the secrets is when somebody comes to you cold and you don't know who they are, although we're going to look at the deal and underwrite the deal, having that relationship does a lot. It's like Lauren said, people do business with people they know, like, and trust, and that's no different for a lender. So start building your relationship. And I also like telling folks, I worked of course at a huge bank, Nations Bank, Bank of America, but my last bank was Fulton Bank. It's a regional bank based out in Lancaster, PA. We're also in Jersey, for those of you in Jersey. So we go from Jersey all the way down to Virginia and DC. But some smaller local regional banks and credit unions are some of your best friends, because you can have that personal relationship, get to know each other a little bit more. People have more time to kind of spend to get to know you, not just a number. Decisions made more locally. So develop those relationships, build them, and before you need them. Build your credit and your line of credit or your banking facilities before you need them. Save your funds and partner for development and investment capital, because development is definitely way more capital intensive. It's kind of like, think about it like those big multifamily deals where you have to syndicate, because it takes a while. So typically, JVing is what you need to do to get them done. Start investing passively to learn. For those of you who are newbies, I heard a few folks who are just getting started. And of course, sometimes you want to do it on your own because you don't have to worry about people and whatever their issues are. But sometimes, you have to start out investing passively to learn. Get a mentor and a coach. There's some good ones out there. Do your due diligence, do your research, ask around before you plop down a whole bunch of money. Learn while you earn before jumping out and saying you want to be a full-time developer. So I think I heard some folks saying that they work and they're also doing development. That's a good idea. Just do your market research. So I started talking about some of the stats about Baltimore, but know your market and pick your markets carefully. You know, I like, you know, I like investing, especially if you're just starting out close to home, so you can drive by and look at what's going on and kick the tires. You know, but if you don't have boots on the ground, it's not a good idea to like jump into a market, particularly if you haven't been doing that for a while. So if you're interested in Baltimore, and a lot of people are, because it's just one of the most reasonable markets in the country. So we have a lot of capital. All the big money folks from New York are coming down and plunking down $2, $3, $4 million in cash to buy buildings. People from California, Florida, you know, a lot of people are coming to Baltimore because of all the things I told you, and also because DC is like severely overpriced, and Baltimore is still one of the most reasonable places to invest. So if you're interested in this market and you want to work here or want to buy property here, because I mean, there are programs in the city where we have called buy back the block, or formerly the vacancy value program, where they're selling vacant buildings. We do have a high vacancy issue because of the depopulation. So, you know, some folks like, you know, buy property sight unseen. That's not a good idea. Make sure you come to the market, you know, drive around, talk to players, find out who the stakeholders are, know your markets, know your neighborhoods, because in Baltimore, it's a block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood, sometimes investment strategy. So know where you're going before you buy it. And then build your team, right? But for those of you who are just starting, buy your home first, and then use the equity from that and start rolling it over. That's how I got started. Bought my first house and pulled the equity out, got a line of credit, and started investing. And that's how I started building my real estate portfolio. I'll just drop another tidbit for those who've been working for a while. You may or may not have heard of a self-directed IRA. So if you want to be able to use some, you have funds sitting there, and right now the market's not doing so great, and you want to be able to invest, and you're like, I have no capital. You may look into a self-directed IRA where you can put your funds into that vehicle to invest passively through other projects, or passively, because you can't directly manage the projects you invest in. So that is really what I have to convey. I hope that you've learned something. I'm willing to take some questions. I'll drop my information in the chat. And yeah, real estate is an amazing asset. And I owe my journey in real estate, unbeknownst to me, from the impact of my dad, who at age 15 gave me the book Think and Grow Rich, and told me, if you want to get wealthy, get your learn real estate and learn finance. And that's what I did. So thank you so much for listening, and I appreciate your time and open to questions. Over to you, Lawrence.
Great blessing, Mom.
Thank you very much, Nicole, for a fantastic presentation. Can you please stop sharing your screen?
Yes, I can.
So there are some questions here, right? There are some questions here. First of all, Cinto says, would love for you to come back on again and talk about affordable housing. Cinto, you're gonna get your wish. We're gonna get Nicole back on here to talk about affordable housing and financing affordable housing.
Okay.
So Amanda wants to know, Amanda says she'd love to deep dive into the capital stack and timing of the funding. So Lee Johnson wants to know, how does one participate?
Wait, one question at a time. What was the first one?
Amanda said she would love to deep dive into capital stack and timing of the funding.
Okay.
So Amanda and you and Amanda need to connect. Right?
Okay, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'll drop my info in the chat. Reach out.
So Lee Johnson asks, how does one participate in these opportunities as an investor? Are these typically 506B or 506C opportunities?
So, interesting that you asked. So I haven't decided which one I'm going to do, but I want to open it up to the crowd because I'm doing community development. Part of the mission of my company is to give the community an opportunity for ownership. So my goal, my aspirational goal is to give every project 5 to 10% of each project, open it to the community where the project is based for the mixed use and community development projects, that is. So I will definitely be working on having vehicles for the unaccredited investors to invest as well.
Thank you. So Sufa says, can you get your contact information? You put the information in the chat?
I will be doing it right now.
That's a question. Amanda asks, did the high vacancy in Baltimore affect bank financing or confidence of lenders?
Actually, not really. So some lenders are particular about where they lend, but the beauty of being in the affordable housing and community development space, because those financing sources of LIHTC and new markets provides equity, and the need for affordable housing is always growing, we're kind of sheltered. That's why, over the last several years, a lot of market rate developers are also getting into the affordable housing space because there's never enough. And, we have a dearth of those housing, and that is severely needed. So some lenders are particular about where they want to invest and what type of product they want to invest in. But you can certainly find lenders who will participate in the space, whether it's fix or flips. So typically you have to do a hard money and then refi out. But larger development projects, there are plenty of players here. There are our main lenders here, like you've probably heard of Truist, PNC, M&T. Fulton Bank is a pretty big player. Chase has come into the market. As a matter of fact, they made a pledge a couple of years ago to open like 20 branches, and they just made an announcement that they're opening 20 more in the region. So major investment, Capital One's here. So the lenders are very active. We've had some new players come into the market and some that are expanding and acquiring other smaller banks. So definitely.
So next question. So thank you for this. Next question is Shauna wants to know, any tips for building a great team?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of building a great team, referrals, I would say, make sure you get into a community and then ask for referrals, right? Because the folks who are in the industry and are in the business, they'll have a reputation and people will know who they are. So if folks can't tell you what they've done, and if you can't get good reviews from several people, that's probably not a good partner. So I would just get referrals, attend conferences in the space that you want to be in. So whether it's like in the affordable housing space, Nova Gradic does really good conferences for low-income housing and new markets tax credits. Cone Resnick. You just know, you have to learn the industry. Now, in terms of attorneys, you'll find the projects and then, see who the development team is and see who worked on it. But being a part of industry organizations, that you can meet these folks and go into these different networking events. So every area has their, organizations and associations for housing or community development. So getting involved in those communities, just like you do with the community for multifamily investment, is a good way to build your team and get referrals.
Thank you. So Amanda wants to know, did you use your SD Sidra to invest?
I haven't used it yet, but I'm going to be passively invested in a project and I will be using it, yes.
Okay. And so Brandon Yang asked, how would you start with no money? And let me flip it around. What do I need to do if I have no money? What are some of the things I can do to get more knowledge and get involved?
Well, I mean, like I said, if you don't have any money or much money, and you own your own property, I mean, I think the best way is to build up equity in your home and then, take equity out and invest in your next property. I think I heard some folks introducing themselves by saying that they were also doing wholesaling. So for folks who have no money, that's a good way to get your foot in the door and start building up some cash reserves, is to do wholesaling, and build your cash reserves that way. You can, partner with somebody and partner with folks who may have the financial resources and build your rapport that way, and maybe you can JV on a deal. So those are some of the ways. And I think he also asked, do you know any good lenders or financial advisors in New Jersey? I will just say that Fulton Bank is in New Jersey as well. So although I'm not gone, I'm gone, I'm still a part of the family. So definitely give them a call. Yeah. Okay.
And Angel said that Lee responded to a post today that profits earned when using your self-directed retirement accounts is taxed as a regular income and not long-term gains. She wants to know, do you know more about that? So
my understanding is that using your self-directed IRA, whatever proportion that you put into the deal, you could put that same proportion back of profits back into your IRA untaxed. That's the whole point of using it, because it's protected. So if you have a deal and the deal, you're investing, let's say that your entire investment amount is 100,000 and you put 50,000 from your self-directed IRA into that deal, you'll be able to put 50% back into your IRA untaxed.
Oh, okay. Angel, you got a question? I can tell.
Yeah, I'm not mathing. So, so if I put 50,000 from a self-directed account into a deal, I could put 75 back in untaxed.
You can put 50% of your the profits, because the total investment is 100.
Gotcha.
50%, whatever proportion it is. So if you only use 10% from the IRA or whatever proportion you used, you can put that percentage back in your IRA.
Okay, so if the investment doubled and I put in 50 and 50 was the minimum investment and my money doubled, then I could put in 100 back without it being taxed?
Yes.
Okay. We're good. My mathing is working now.
Don't put the bed on, please. So.
And I'll tell you, so I'm not advocating for anybody, because there are a whole bunch of self-directed IRA providers out there. I use Entrust, but Advanta is one, and they give really good training. If you just want to log on to their training portal, they have like free webinars and training opportunities. So I like their platform for that. And they're different types. So there's one where you have to use the trustee to invest and tell them what you want to do. Advanta allows you to have what you call checkbook writing authority. So you can, when you have a deal, you don't have to call them up, just write a check. So so definitely look, do some research. So they're different types.
So do we have
Equity trust is another big one too.
Do you have any more questions? Go ahead, Cynthia.
Yes, I have a question.
Well, go ahead, Shani.
I wanted to find out, how could I connect with her? Is it possible to connect with her? Because I am interested
information in the chat. Yeah.
In the chat.
Okay.
My info's in the chat, and I'm open to taking mentees and JV partners, or if you're interested in any of the things that I'm doing. The larger projects like the hospitality project or the multifamily. So yeah, we can talk.
And it's your information is under your name.
I just dropped it in the chat. So yes, it should be under my name.
I was trying to find it. I can't find it.
No, she has the NicoleEarle.com to everyone. So it's Nicole, Lucille says Nicole Earle, That's her. And she has
Nicole Earle.
.com. That's at
Dot
the bottom, at the
com.
bottom.
It's
Oh, okay.
the last comment in the chat,
That's comment, right.
the longest one.
Okay. Okay.
Cinto, you have a question, Cinto?
Yeah, hey, good evening. Nicole, I
Yes.
really, really love your presentation. I'm literally texting my partners right now because you may be able to solve two of our biggest issues.
Is that right?
Yes.
What?
One is we started not for profit and we're going to build my manifestation board says I'm going to build a veterans housing, affordable housing, and low income housing. We're headquartered in around the Fort Myers area in Florida.
Okay.
So I would really love your guidance on how to fund such things. So one of the strategies that we're going to start using is LIHTC funding. So I would really love to sit down and have a chat with you someday about how to go about doing that. So from my limited knowledge, all I know is that each LIHTC authority is run by the state by whatever name they go by. So in your case, you said it was like the Baltimore Development Housing Authority or the
No. So for the
Maryland?
state of Maryland is called CDA.
Maryland.
Yeah,
CDA,
it's
right.
Community Development Administration of CDA and Maryland
So
Department of Housing and Community Development. So
they
every
give
state is different, like you said.
right. So they would issue after your application, they would issue X amount of tax credits, and then you can go off and then sell those to certain individuals or contributors. Is that correct?
So you're going to put together your entire team from in the beginning, right? So there are two types of loan, and we're getting into the weeds here. But there are two types of credits. So the 4% is non-competitive and 9% are competitive. So depending on how you're financing your project and how you're planning to do it, and you study, what the rules are and what the application process is in your area. So what are they funding? What are they asking for? Because typically, like here we have the what we call the QAP, and every year they go through a process, a qualified application process, and they kind of have a listening session. What are the needs? Because the priorities could change from year to year. So they might give a bump for a certain type of housing or type of population that they want served. So you have to know if you're competitive enough to go for the 9% or if your project can work with a 4%. A lot of states, a lot of projects, because it's a limited amount of tax credits, folks, and also the timing that, if they're doing 1 round, 2 rounds, folks might try to get their deals to work with a 4% versus the 9%. So you have to know which one you're going after. So there are a bunch of different sources, and every state has a different capital available to fill out your stack, as they may have soft money, they may not. Fortunately, to kind of help a lot of states fill gaps, because a lot of projects came up with gaps because of all the supply increases, cost increases. So there are different funding sources that you can use to fill your gap after you kind of figure out which tax credit you're going to use.
Awesome, thank you.
But yeah, you're doing, and so like different states also have programs specific to Are you a veteran?
I am not, but there's 3 partners, including myself. 2 of my other partners are both veterans.
Okay, so that great.
And one of them is from Baltimore. He's actually there right now,
Okay.
visiting family, but he's from Baltimore. Townsend,
Yeah,
something like that.
Townsend, Baltimore County.
Yeah. Yep.
So there, so you're looking at 2 sides, right? The supply side. So you're going to come in with your capital stack, and then after development, you have different income sources, like the VASH, which is vouchers for veterans, that you can look to get to help you with, your filling out your income for the project as well. So yeah, we could talk offline.
Yeah, and I really love your lending product for Airbnbs. That's something we're getting into. So yeah, appreciate that.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you.
Well, once again, any more questions? Yes, Shauna.
Hi, what a great presentation. Thank you so much, Nicole. That was fabulous. Yes, thank you. I also am really interested in chatting one-on-one with you, maybe even being like having you as a mentor or something. I really feel like there are a lot of things we have in common in terms of the things you want to do. I also want to help revitalize Baltimore, and I have a few properties there already. I just have no idea how to go about it, and you clearly have all the ideas of how to go about it. So
Happy to help. Happy to help.
thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Once again, great job. Thanks.
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Okay, well, I'm going to say thank you, Nicole. I'm going to echo what Sean just said. Wonderful presentation. Covered all the bases. And thank you for coming on and taking the time again to come on to financial independence through small multifamily investing. Appreciate you.